Certainly I did anyway.
We did, Mark. It was a great week actually, and coincided with actually one of the busiest weeks I've had. Although, of course,
Yeah,
I
same. Yeah.
I did push some stuff on from last week, having been away in Germany last week. But yeah, the weather was great here. Actually, too hot on Tuesday, Wednesday almost, but certainly I was in London yesterday, a little bit cooler, and it was actually quite nice. We had went for lunch there with some people yesterday, and then spent an afternoon out behind the jam pot out in the city there, which was rather nice cool breeze, and couple of beers, and just chatting with colleagues and friends, and yeah, it was. Very nice afternoon, and it's cooler today as well. It's sun's out, a bit cooler, so the
Mm.
best mixture really.
Yes, indeed,
Yeah.
indeed. Well, I mean, it has been a busy week as well, which is surprising given we are sort of end of June now. But there's been some, lots of things going on. It seems like a lot of the companies we talk about, the exploration companies anyway, a lot of them have got programs going on that'll keep us entertained throughout the course of the summer, and a few of them
Mm.
performing, very very nicely. And the first one we're going to talk about today is Guardian Metal Resources, formerly Golden Metal Resources, with that name change there, reflecting, a more of a United States defense metal tungsten approach, I believe.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, Guardian Metal Resources has been doing pretty well recently, and of course they've got that very active exploration program going on right now in Nevada. So bring us up to speed, Alan. Give us your thoughts on Guardian Metal Resources and the work they're doing in Nevada at the moment.
Well, I'm looking back at some of the numbers when the company originally IPO'd. Of course, Power Metal Resources, it came out of the stable of companies there, and Power Metal still holds 62% of the company, and I don't imagine it'll be selling down anytime soon because if you want to know, I mean, we've spoken about other companies in the past, but I think Oliver Friesen, the chief exec of the company, has written a book on how to run a mining company today, and also how to communicate with investors and communicate the story. And this is a story of just a steady build in value, a steady build in the company's offering, engaging with different people, with government departments in the US, hiring a strategic advisor, Mrs. Chutmani, of course, who is the strategic advisor to the US government, is also now an advisor to Guardian Metal Resources. And, we've seen the shares sort of IPO around the 9p mark, and they've blasted up, and we sit today at 26, 27p. And during that time, a lot of the warrants that were, of course, issued at the IPO have been exercised. So there are more shares in the market, but every time more shares are added into the marketplace, the company achieves yet another milestone, of course, adds further value. So there's just this perception of this huge growth curve in the company, and of course value. So a quick summary of the projects. Of course, as you rightly said, Mark, the company's focused in Nevada, which of course is a very mining friendly jurisdiction, and the industries there is built on a pretty unique geological backdrop, with an abundance of high grade underground mines, large open pit mines, Carlin type deposits, and it does pretty much have the highest mineral wealth percentage by state in the USA. Um, the company Guardian itself owns a number of projects. The flagship project is, of course, the Pilot Mountain project, which originally had it has currently a mineral resource estimate of 12.5 million tons of tungsten, the largest undeveloped tungsten resource in the USA. And of course, given that the US government will no longer be taking mineral supplies from China in the very near future, for the US government to develop its own internal supply is of huge importance. Hence the appointment of Mrs. Chirk Tepmani to the company to assist with that process. Um, At the same time, the company is also dual listed. So it originally had an OTCQB listing in the USA. And today, Friday, as we're speaking, of course, Mark, the company has upgraded that listing to OTCQX, which in order to qualify for an OTCQX listing, you need higher fiscal standards, better corporate governance and compliance. And with that backdrop and infrastructure, you can build good visibility with US investors. And of course, US investors will want to get involved now with Guardian because of the Pilot Mountain project, and also because of the company's other projects too. And I can remember I actually spoke to Oliver some years ago, and the other projects that the company has, of course, the Gold Condor project, where there's a Carlin type gold system there. The Garfield project, there's a significant sort of copper deposit, copper zones there discovered, and of course the Stonewall project, a quartz deposit there, which returned samples initially set up to 1.17% grams per ton gold, and of course the Kibbe Basin lithium project, which is sited close to an existing lithium brine project, and is less than 5 kilometers from Pilot Mountain. And looking at it geographically, in terms of operating company logistically, all of these projects are within pretty close proximity to each other. So in terms of management, access to site, distribution resources, logistics, everything else, it's a very easy and low cost company to run. And that's another factor that is significant in making this company attractive to investors. So it's been a busy year for Oliver and the team. In May, the company announced in the Garfield project that it was staking a further 44 mineral claims, and it increased the area by the area of licenses and claims by 67% to just over 9 square kilometers. And Garfield is unique for copper porphyry targets, and porphyry, of course, is where copper bodies are formed by hydrothermal fluids that basically trickle down through the crust from large magma chambers, and the mineralization in this area is so extensive that when the announcement was published, the company also published some pictures from the area, and there was mineralization. You could clearly see the copper mineralization observed on the surface there, and that's obviously very exciting, because if it's on the surface, there's going to be a lot more underground. On June the 11th, the company announced the largest ever geophysics campaign across multiple tungsten and copper targets at Pilot Mountain. And Oliver referred to these as magnetic bullseye targets. I've mentioned this before, but Oliver's strategy of measuring twice, cut once. Be absolutely sure of what you've got. Go back, do those geophysics again if you're not 100% happy. Make sure you know exactly what you're going to before you drill, because ultimately that saves money, and it means the money that the company's raised, of course, is put to best use. Then, of course, the big announcement at the start of the week, which really was a milestone announcement for the company. We all knew Pilot Mountain was good, but the two drill holes from Pilot Mountain revealed extensive mineralization at the Desert Scheelite project. Hole 1, mineralization between just over 12 meters down to 43 meters, and then from 65 meters to 151 meters. So that's a huge amount of mineralization by any standards. Then hole 2 in the Porphyry South project at Pilot Mountain, the mineralized porphyry system was seen on the drill samples from 22 meters down to 407 meters. Now that's nearly 400 meters solid of mineralization. That is a significant find. And of course, it was the company commented at the time saying it was a remarkable result. And of course, these are just the initial drill holes. There's an awful lot more work to do there. So I think, it's such an exciting time for gold metal. I think it's a great stock to hold. Those that were in at the start, we've all had a very good result, but there's so much more growth to come. The company's still got a market cap of just 26, 27 million. So, I think with the US listing as well, US investors are going to get involved. So I'm sure you'll see some positive arbitrage at play there, moving the share price up over here as well. But really exciting times. Can't wait for the next announcement.
Yeah, indeed. I think it is like that, isn't it? Can't wait for the next announcement. What a great way to start the exploration program. I mean, Oliver, I interviewed him off the back of that news, announced, where they'd basically discovered, he said we've discovered the porphyry. Of course, they've got the desert scheelite area as well. It's going as they expected. They're extending it as they expected, and that's on its own is enough to, be a company maker. But yeah, this anomaly they had, he's confidently saying, based on visuals, that we found it, subject to assay results for further confirmation. But he was very bullish about that. So yeah, and it continues, doesn't it? And it's a flexible drill program, as Oliver said, and so they can go back to areas of more interest before they sort of wrap up for the season, sort of thing. But yeah, it's good to see. What a great start to to that project. It's been around for a while, hasn't it? Of course, it was originally Thor Mining. Obviously, it's Thor Energy now. But yeah, going back quite a few years, and that there's a lot of potential in that project that's finally starting to perhaps be recognised and exploited, and a good climate as well, given as well the macro.
I think that's it. No, I think that's it, Mark. It's the macro climate. Everything comes together because Pilot Mountain, as you rightly say, it's been there for a long time. It was owned by Thor Energy prior to Golden Metal. But I think it needs certain elements to come together. The US government is now absolutely focused on developing its own resources, and there's evidence of that, of course, with the investment it's making into other projects as well. Obviously, Blanket Resources, we spoke before, the US International Development Finance Corporation invested $5 million into the Orome Cross Graphite project in Africa. So they're very much looking at securing their own supply, but also to have a supply like this on your own doorstep, and to have these sort of results early on. That's a big feather in the cap for Guardian Metals, and I'm very excited to see what's going to come next from the subsequent drill holes.
Indeed. Well, thank you, Alan. We continue to watch this space on Guardian Metal Resources as we go into the summer. So let's talk now about Voyager Life, who have moved significantly into a big pivot into mining. Although, as Nick said on the interview with me that I did with him, it's almost back to where they came from, I think. Helium. So moving from the CBD play into the mining space, into producing helium. So you've done your research, Alan. Tell us a bit about your thoughts on this move.
Well, the CBD sector has, I think, encountered some challenges over the past few years. It's a perhaps slow burn is the wrong word, but it's taken time to come to fruition. And I think what Nick was creating with Voyager was laudable. He bringing various companies together, creating value from a combined entity. But of course, the sales were relatively modest. You've got a little company that's ticking over there, but probably one that certainly in the current climate isn't really suitable to be a PLC, because it can't deliver the sort of growth that other businesses can. So, of course, what the company have said, the momentous announcement by the company yesterday, they are going to basically dispose of Voyager's existing plant-based health and wellness operations, the manufacturing facility in Perth, where they produce products for Voyager and third-party customers, e-commerce wholesale operations also in Perth, and the retail stores. They're profitable. They're going to be sort of selling those on at a suitable time for the business. But of course, the huge pivot is into helium, and helium is a hugely important gas for it has a vast range of applications, medical, defense, all sorts, and the move into helium is quite prescient, really, because there's a lot of interest in helium production and extraction at the moment. We spoke last week about helix exploration that came to market under the leadership of Bo Sears, and of course Bo Sears has written a book on helium, the disappearing element. So it's really it's increasingly important, and whilst production costs at the moment, I think, are $550 per million cubic feet. There is scope for resale prices much higher than that further down the road. So I think with this opportunity, Nick and his team have been working in the background for some time on the M3 helium acquisition, and I would imagine that once the acquisition has been completed, all the due diligence and has been completed, then it'll be renamed M3 Helium. So M3 has 5 wells in Kansas, and these are wells that are producing both natural gas and, of course, helium. It also has a helium production plant too. There are 2 primary. Well, the primary project is in Hugoton, the North Play, where historically 30 trillion cubic feet of natural gas has been produced. An M3 estimate that across the project there's some 440 billion cubic feet of recoverable gas, which includes in that 5.5 billion cubic feet of helium, which of course is that's a huge asset to have in the ground. Significantly, the company has, as a result of Scout Energy earlier in the year putting in place or purchasing a pipeline. They have access to a pipeline which is directly plumbed into Scout Energy's Jayhawk helium plant, which is based in Kansas. So of course they have access to that. There's a premium, of course, charged by the plant for producing the helium, but nonetheless, it's literally a plug and play solution. So, companies are now looking increasingly to, okay, this is great, I've got these products. How do I generate cash near term? And this is a plug and play cash generative opportunity. The company also has the Fort Dodge lease as well, and there's an existing well there. There are 2 additional wells that can be drilled, and also the company has its own hybrid production solution in place for that. So how's this going to be structured? So the company are going to they're issuing new shares in Voyager to M3 Helium shareholders, which will represent 57% of the enlarged share capital of Voyager. And of course, it will have the CBD assets to sell off. That'll be done in due course, so that cash will come back into the company. And Nick already has an excellent reputation as a careful operator and somebody that looks after cash resources very carefully. You see the work he's done with ECR Minerals with Mike Whitlow since joining there. And in this process, it's also conditionally raised £864,000 at 3 pence. So the share price of Voyager was 3.25. So at the time it was suspended, and of course that means there's little or no dilution therefore in terms of value for existing shareholders. But I'm sure once this comes back to market, it will increase in value. And equally, I think at that time the company will see further value in terms of the development plan it has to bring these wells on stream. So it's been announced. It's incredibly exciting. Obviously, I can sort of speculate, along with everyone else. But I think firstly, it's the field has cumulative production over 30 trillion cubic feet of natural gas produced there. We've got new wells that are being drilled there. We have with the Hugoton, the North Play, direct access into a production plant. So it's plug and play. It can produce helium and natural gas pretty well straight away. It's got the upside with Fort Dodge Lane as well, 2 additional wells to be drilled there. And in short, the makings of a very exciting company, certainly a company that's going to transform the fortunes for Voyager shareholders who, whilst they've been invested into a company that hasn't really, the share price hasn't really moved. I'm sure we're going to see some significant movement once the company comes back to market with the deal being done.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's hope so. Hey, I mean, but I think it's quite a prudent move if the CBD is not really suitable to a PLC, even though it is operating, it does produce. Then yeah, I mean, maybe it's a sign, as well, of the sector coming back. Alan. We're seeing a bit more life in this mining sector, aren't we? Recently, and
Yeah,
opportunities are sort of afoot, and helium. Not many helium plays, but there's some good performers in helium. We spoke about Helix last week, didn't we? So yeah, I'm keen to see how this develops.
yeah. Well, I think with Nick at the helm, you can be pretty sure that this is really going to go places. There was a lot of interest in the announcement yesterday, of course, and of course you interviewed Nick and spoke to Nick, and we're going to hear a lot more in the coming days and weeks, and I'm sure there are going to be plenty of announcements from and news flow from the company as this develops. There's a lot of work to do, but also if you look at the announcement, this has been in this hasn't happened overnight. This has been in the pipeline, excuse the pun, for some time. So there's a lot of planning gone into this, and I know Nick reasonably well. The one thing I do know about him is that he plans stuff very carefully. So he'll plan for contingencies and everything else. So everything is in place, and it's exciting that it's been announced now because there is a real sense, and certainly when I spoke to him early this week, there's a real sense that we're going to hit the floor running with this company. So really good stuff.
Yeah, it's good to keep an eye on this and see how that project develops. But let's finish off with Cykel AI. So talking about AI and tech, and Cykel, of course, moving over to the main market of the LSE just this week.
Indeed. So this is a very bold move by Cykel AI, and one that's been constructed pretty well, I think, by the team and their advisors. Of course, Mustang Energy listed on the main market, effectively a shell in one sense, but a company that also itself has pivoted and bought Cykel AI because it's Cykel AI has, I think, struggled to get traction on the Aquis exchange. So it has made this move to open itself up to far greater opportunities. Funds will be able to invest into the company, and so many other doors will be unlocked. But we spoke about Cykel AI, of course, earlier in the year, of course, founded by Jonathan Bixby, who's a real he's a real tech entrepreneur, and what Cykel have done, they've built an AI model that will interact with any user interface, any website or API using natural language commands, and it was likened to the following analogy, which I found fairly useful in a way of understanding how it works. So AI's got a big brain with a big head, and what Cykel does, it gives it hands, so it's enabled to fulfill these repetitive digital tasks, and I think that's where AI is going to really, and is fulfilling, a great role now, where you've got competitive or repetitive tasks that currently people are employed to do. AI can be employed to do that time and time again, probably more quickly, probably more efficiently. The ultimate aim of Cykel is to build a system that can perform all computer-based work. It's come from the stable of Jonathan Bixby companies. I mean, Jonathan Bixby is based in Vancouver, Vancouver-based entrepreneur. He's founded Como Banking, Pay the Gaming, NFT investments, Stealth Carbon, and of course Cykel itself. So the deal, as it's agreed, is that the offer by Mustang Energy for Cykel is 1.9 Mustang shares for every one Cykel shares. So yesterday, the company announced that it had secured that main market London listing, and that Mustang shares were reopening at 4.99p. Cykel AI shares are being cancelled now on AIM, so the enlarged share capital is now represented in Mustang. No name change for the immediate future. I guess the dust is going to settle, and then obviously Cykel will progress with its plans to develop the business. And it's got a very strong reseller model, and of course with the funds that it raised on Aquis, it's bringing people in to develop its marketing proposition and get it out there and get it engaged. But it's a big move for the company, and I think a good pivot as well for Mustang Energy. So Mustang Energy shareholders all of a sudden are exposed to the upside from the very latest AI technology.
Indeed, yes. And Mustang's been suspended for a while, hasn't it? I think it's 3 years or something when I was reading. So it's been suspended for quite a while. Of course, Mustang shareholders. Well, I don't know much about that situation, but at least at least it's back trading. At least it's now got what could be a really interesting, exciting opportunity with AI, because given the hype around AI, Nvidia. I mean, yeah, it's in a bubble, but how much bigger is that bubble going to get? It looks like it's not going anywhere anytime soon. It looks like the journey's only just started. And Jonathan said, what did he say? He made two analogies. He made the American analogies at the first innings, and he made it into a European analogy in football. I said the first 10 minutes of the game. So. And it is really just getting started. There's a lot of hype around AI, but in terms of real world applications, there's not some. It's like the internet, isn't it? There was a lot of really hype around. Oh, this is really cool, but actually, what does it do? Is it actually that useful? And then obviously, it turns out it's extremely useful with so much utility. And it seems like we're in that stage with AI at the moment. And the likes of people like Jonathan really finding the utilities for the AI tech.
Yeah, very much so, Mark. But I think even with this now, with the main market listing, the company is still very modestly valued. I mean, Jonathan said that, of course, looking at sort of peer group out there and comparisons, Adept in Silicon Valley are their biggest competitor. They raised between 350 and 500 million at a $1 billion valuation, and they're building an underlying language, which of course is different to Cykel AI, which just uses OpenAI. So Cykel AI actually has a much more flexible and sustainable business model, because if you build a language to go with a product, then of course you're stuck with using that language. Whereas if everyone else is using, open source and open AI, then effectively you're shutting yourself out of the large majority of the marketplace. So Cykel, I think are well placed for growth here now, and I know they were the product was being developed and completed. Well, it was basically completed during quarter 1 this year, ironing out sort of the last minute glitches and all the rest of it. So I think the RTO basically has completed at a time when the company has undertaken all the testing, and the product is out there now, ready to go and ready to go and ready to grow.
It's ready to, it's in the go-to-market phase, and they've already got 5 customers on board, paying customers, which is what he said he wanted to achieve. He actually said on the interview that they smashed it. So, I mean, Jonathan's extremely driven. You can tell the entrepreneurial spirit in him when you talk to him. So I think they're at the right time in the right space. It's pretty hot, and I don't think they're going to mess around. I think they're going to go for this. And now that they're on the LSE, which we all know is more liquid than the Aquis exchange, then they will certainly have to go for it. Otherwise, companies that don't, we know what happens to them. So I think they're really going to start motoring now. So good. I'm looking forward to it, and I think there'll be more AI IPOs, RTOs, etc. in the coming months. As I say, I think this is just getting started. But thank you very much, Alan, for your time, as always, covering Voyager, Guardian Metal Resources, and Cykel AI there. And let's speak again next week.
Thanks, Mark. Have a good weekend.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like, or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stopboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.